Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the People's Voice. I am Trey Evans, and I am the People's Voice. Thank you again for checking out the podcast this week. As always, it is greatly appreciated. As always, we thank everyone who has taken some time out to listen to the podcast today. We do understand that you could be utilizing your time to do something else, so we do appreciate you spending your time equity with us. As always, if this information is valuable and you feel it is worth sharing, we do ask that you subscribe to the podcast. That way you'll be notified when each episode is released. We put out a new episode each and every Friday. Matter of fact, when you do subscribe, do me a favor, turn on your notifications as well, because I do see subscriptions have gone up. But I want you to be notified when it comes out. It does come out every Friday, but I know some people like to listen to it as soon as it comes out. So put notifications on regarding your subscription. But we do put out an episode every Friday, and then we put out a video on YouTube on a weekly basis. But as always, thank you and welcome to the People's Voice podcast. Today, I would like to talk about food insecurity. And specifically, I want to talk about food insecurity that is occurring in or with those who are in the military. People of active and not just in the military, but active service members that are in the military and their families. And I want to talk about this today because I don't think the general public is aware of this issue. And if they are aware, it's not many because it doesn't get a lot of coverage. But that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about food insecurity in the military with active duty servicemen and women today. I guess I should give a definition of what food insecurity is, because maybe, not everyone knows what food insecurity is. So food insecurity, let me give an official definition, and then I'll, give the layman's term definition. So it said basically food insecurity is the lack of access. And as soon as I said, let me look for the general term, I lost it. Food insecurity is the lack of access to enough good, healthy, and appropriate foods. And that's the kind of the baseline to it. Basically, food insecurity is when there are families and individuals who don't have enough food to eat and don't know where their next meal is going to come from. That is what food insecurity is. And, when I give that definition, one might think, well, how is that possible that military people, specifically those who are currently in the military, how could they be experiencing that? Well, they are. Active duty members and their families are experiencing food insecurities. And just like you would assume, food insecurities may be in those who are coming from impoverished environments and neighborhoods, or, maybe homelessness, things of that nature. Many of these military families do not make enough income to support their families and themselves with having regular meals. Matter of fact, I was reading an article from Military Times, and in that article, they talked about this very issue. And really it comes down to, of course, income, right? You have, despite what many people may think, many military people, especially those in active duty, especially, those who are, 5 years or less in the military, are not making a lot of money. But in this article from Military Times, they talked about a or they referred to, I should say, a survey that was conducted by the DOD. And in that survey, they basically asked several questions to find out how, the extent of the issue in terms of individuals not having or dealing with food insecurity. And once the survey was completed, and I'm reading the article here again from Military Times, it says basically the report revealed that 24% of active duty service members experience some level of food insecurity. And it goes on to say, and it acknowledges the connections between hunger and mission readiness, also troop retention and recruitment. And, those play a huge role. Obviously, I don't know how you can have service people who have signed up to defend the country and they are not getting the proper nutrients or don't have access to food to be ready for wartime combat. So that's, definitely, one thing that just blew me away. But I think also in terms of when they talk about troop retention and recruitment, because, and I've talked about this, I think on a couple of podcasts regarding the struggles that the armed forces are having with recruiting individuals to come into the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. All levels of armed forces are struggling with recruiting individuals, American citizens, to join the armed forces. But when you hear stories like this, right, you can clearly understand why would someone want to sign up when they're hearing stories that those who are already in the armed forces, or many of them, obviously it's not everyone here, based on this survey, it says 24% of active duty service members, but that's very high. I mean, that's a quarter of all service members, active service members. That's very high. But why would someone want to sign up when they're hearing these type of stories that, basically they've signed up and they're not receiving anything to eat? Or not enough to eat, not anything. Let me correct that. Not enough to eat to support themselves or their family. So that's what's currently going on in terms of food insecurity in the military. So I was, as I was going through all of this information, I was trying to find out, well, why is this occurring, right? And there's several reasons. Obviously one of the top reasons is because of the level of income that's being received, for many of these individuals that are in the military. I'm reading here from the same article from Military Times, and it says, basically with the inflation increase that occurred last year, you have a lot of low-income active Guard and Reserve service members are really feeling the price, or really don't have the money to support having regular and healthy meals. And again, there's an assumption that once someone is in the military, for some reason that they're making money and that they can afford to either, pay for groceries and have adequate meals, or that the government is somehow subsidizing that. And that's just not the case. Matter of fact, NBC News did a piece on this a few months ago, and they talked to an active service member, and he explained, some of the reasons why food insecurity is occurring, and matter of fact, his own experience. So let me play that, and then I'll get back into the conversation here, but let me play this and then we'll go from there.
Let's go. Let's roll.
Senior Navy Chief Andre Sutherland runs food pantries like training drills.
Pull up, sir. Keep going, please. The line wraps around the corner, all the way down the street.
Sutherland brings his recruits each week to help distribute food and clothing to local veterans and service members at the Midwest Veterans Closet.
Thank you for your service.
But he also relies on the pantry himself.
First time I was shy, I was apprehensive, and you're in the military. Everybody think we're making all this money, but we're not.
And now this is a commander, okay, in the U.S. Navy who is stating that he himself has to, rely on food pantries and other outlets to sustain himself, to make sure that food insecurity is being addressed in his home. That information alone has to be quite disturbing for those who have not heard about this before. I know it was for me, because I'm saying, just like he said in that piece, I'm assuming that, not necessarily that people in the military are making a ton of money, but I'm assuming that if they're in the military, that there are benefits to support and ensure that they're having, they're not dealing with food insecurity, and that they're, of course, having access to as many healthy meals and nutritious meals as possible. But that's not occurring. Another issue that is kind of in conjunction with that is that it's not just the military individuals themselves, those that are serving in the military, that are dealing with this. It's also their families. I was reading another article from the Military Times, and they talked about the spouses of those who are enlisted. And here in this article, it says that nearly 50% of junior enlisted spouses say they have experienced food insecurity. And again, that's according to that survey that was released by the Department of Defense. And when you're talking about 50% of junior enlisted individuals, and junior enlisted individuals, just for those who may not be aware of that terminology, junior enlisted individuals are junior enlisted individuals are those who have recently got into the military, or those who are have low ranking, right? So in the survey, when they're talking about junior enlisted, they're talking about those who have who are rated between an E1 and an E4. And an E1 to E4, that's a pay grade rating in the military, for those who may not be familiar with it. But in this survey, almost 50% of service members and their spouses said that they're dealing with food insecurities as well. Another interesting fact that they kind of pointed out here, it says overall, 1 out of 4 active duty spouses reported being food insecure, according to the results of the 2021 active duty survey. But then it goes on to say that 3% of the spouses reported using SNAP benefits, for those who may know it a little bit better as food stamps, right? The supplemental nutrition assistance program is known as SNAP, but those who may not know that term, basically it's what we used to call food stamps. 3% of those individuals, of those spouses, admitted or reported that they're using food stamps basically to fill in the gaps between what they can and can't afford. And I want to make it clear that this is not just limited to service members who are low of grade. As you heard in the piece there, that was a commander in the U.S. Navy who said that basically he has to use food pantries to kind of supplement what he is not able to provide for his family. But in this same article from Military Times, they also noted that, overall, in terms of the survey that they did, 31% of enlisted spouses said that they're dealing with food insecurity. But, out of those 31% of spouses that said that they're dealing with food insecurity, 30% of those spouses are what they call E5 and E6s in terms of their pay grade. So these are individuals that are making, more money than those who are, designated at E1 and E4, E1 to E4. And then you even had some senior enlisted and spouses saying that they're dealing with these challenges as well, in terms of food insecurity. So how is this being dealt with? Well, many spouses and many individuals in the military have to go out and get, basically side hustles or have to get additional jobs. Matter of fact, from this same piece that I was watching on NBC News, a wife of an enlisted active duty member talked about, the fact that she had to go get a job basically to ensure that her family was able to eat. So let me play that, and then I'll close out on, what is actually being done to alleviate some of this.
Husband's salary.
It takes extreme budgeting skills and financial awareness to understand how much you need to save in order to survive.
She's frustrated by what she feels is a lack of government support.
They are aware of the problem, but they don't care. That's why I'm angry. That's why I'm frustrated.
And this is the sentiment for many spouses who are dealing with this in the military. And as you heard there, not only does she have to go to get a job to kind of supplement the income. And remember, a lot of these individuals live on military bases where they go to food halls and things of this nature and other services that are on the base, and they still can't afford some of the foods that are required to ensure that not only they keep a consistent that they're able to feed their families on a consistent basis, but they're also getting nutritious and healthy meals. But as she said there, she feels that leaders are not doing anything, and she's frustrated. Now, this has been addressed, or I should say is being addressed. And, for those who may be in the armed forces listening to this, I can completely understand that, you feel whatever steps that they're taking now are long overdue. And basically from this report that I was reading, the steps look like they're micro steps. I haven't seen anything that's, been a major overhaul to eliminate this, but the steps are being done currently to address this, because after this survey came out, many people obviously were alarmed by it. And there have been, again, micro steps to kind of address this. The Department of Defense put out a report at the end of 2023 in conjunction with the Defense for Personnel Readiness. And they basically went over, or I should say revisited, some of the challenges that were uncovered in the survey, and now they're beginning to address it again, very slowly, but there seems to be some movement towards it. So here in the report, it talks about, some of the things that they've currently done or they're in the process of doing. So it says, since the publication of the food security strategy and roadmap over a year ago, the department has taken many actions to increase food affordability and accessibility, as well as bolster the financial readiness of service members and their families. Because again, this all goes back, and I say it, I feel like every podcast, you guys know, everything in America starts with the money. But in this report, they kind of address some of the things that they've done to address the food insecurities that were revealed from that survey. And that survey was conducted in 2022. So basically it says here, one of the first things they've done, or they're in the process of doing, is implementing the basic needs allowance, and increase the basic allowance for housing and the basic allowance for basic allowance for subsistence. Got it. And then they also are increasing savings for service members that shop at commissaries, because again, on these bases, there are commissaries where individuals shop, for their groceries and things of that nature. So they're providing deeper discounts, or I should say they're in the process, because I'm not on a military base. I'm just reading from the report here. And again, this came out at the end of 2023, that they're going to provide deeper discounts at commissaries to ensure that families can afford the necessary foods to support their family. They're also going to expand childcare options. And they announced a new childcare fee schedule that will significantly reduce fees for many military families. Because again, just because these individuals are in the military, they still have children, they still have childcare fees, they still have, expenses. And, all of these programs that they're highlighting here are supposed to address this to help reduce food insecurity at military bases. In addition, they've implemented a 4.6% basic pay raise for troops. They're introducing military spouse career accelerator pilot, and basically that program allows spouses, right, whether it's if they're married and the wife is at home, or they're married and the husband is at home, or same-sex couples, they're allowing the spouse, or they're giving the spouse the opportunity to go into an accelerator program where they can learn a trade or develop a career skill set, so they can go out as well and have joint incomes. Because in the United States, unless you're amongst the top 10%, and definitely top 5 or 1%, you need to have a joint income to be comfortable. And then in addition, they've initiated another qualified study to be completed at the end of this year to better understand the causes of food insecurity among junior enlisted service members. Because again, junior enlisted service members have reported the highest in terms of food insecurity for themselves as individuals, and also with their families. So, there is some things being addressed or being done to address this, but it is the United States government. So I wouldn't expect anything to be rapidly done, but some progress is being made. So hopefully this can be addressed. And again, this is where you as an individual can do something, right? This is where you tap in with your state representative, your senator, obviously, moving it, past that. If you want to, reach out to the various departments, or even to the president of the United States, you can definitely make your voice heard. But this definitely has to be addressed. Those who are in the military have signed up to serve the country, to defend the country. And, the last thing one should have to worry about is whether or not they can feed themselves or to feed their families on a consistent basis. So hopefully this pushes many people to, especially those in government, to act and make these changes as soon as possible. So that is my time for today. That's what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I came across this story and I want to put this out and, get this momentum behind this initiative to assist these individuals and families in the military. But yep, that's my time for today. As always, dreams are not just for sleeping. Please wake up and live your dreams. My name is Trey Evans, the people's voice. tell somebody about the dream. Salute.